Samope, Sampa Dietia, Chimafidi non Kotu, Era One Radio, Samope, Jumpa Dietia, Chimafidi non Kotu, Era One Radio, oh, and Yumpantuma, Chintu, Asampantuma. Era one,
Kosuanati era one radio empenyini say yensoma na motenten yesoma banyasafo era one radio yedin sem anumuaye ebre.
All right, good evening, Era One Radio listeners. We are back on the air, the 21st day of July, 2022. It's a pleasure having my guest, my co-host with me this evening. I'm your host, Charles Boison, on the show of Divine Connection. As usual, we are broadcasting live from Facebook and YouTube. And if you want to call in, the number to call in is 240-280-2633. And if you want to text us, it's 510-931-0946. All right. Tonight, we are looking at another series. Actually, that's what we started a few weeks ago, but we couldn't finish because the contents were so meaty. We had to come back and complete it. All right. So Tuesday, we did the other aspect where our brother, Pastor Nisa Bakon, took a day off. And so Uncle Max was here with me and he filled in appropriately. So thanks to Uncle Max on behalf of the team. All right. So today we are going back to this topic that I titled, Your Attitude Determines Your Altitude. The attitude you have determines how far you can go in life. And it's in line with the series of the grasshopper mentality. We're still going to glean from our scripture, that is Numbers chapter 13, verse 1 to 4. And then we'll look at, I think, 27 down, and then chapter 14, where we'll pick them as and when they come in. All right, so to start us off, I want to quote Pastor Dr. John Maxwell, who says, our attitude determines our approach to life. Our attitude determines our relationship with people. And our attitude is often the only difference between success and failure. All right. So on that note, I want to welcome my gentleman, Dr. Nis, Professor. I call him Professor. He doesn't want me to use that term, but, because of, the rapport and the knowledge he has, I'll refer to both of them as, even if they are not, I give them that title, professors. Pastor Nisaban Robert Akron, all the way in Maryland, IT, pastor, legal analyst, and whatever you want to call him. And on the other side is our most favorable, we call him Uncle Max. I mean, I love calling him Uncle than Mr., not just because of age, but then it's an affectionate term I like, Uncle Max, all the way from Ghana. Uncle Max Baden, all the way from Ghana. And I think it's almost 10 o'clock in Ghana, but he is so loving of our program, and he wants to be, contribute so much that he doesn't mind for going an hour or two of his sleep to join us. So, gentlemen, you are welcome, and any greetings or comments from me before we start? All right, let's start from Ghana. Uncle Max, what do you have to say?
Well, Ghana is going through some changes right now, and we are in the hands of the Lord. Hopefully, what is happening will lead us more towards the promised land than away from it.
Wow. That is great. Yeah, I wish you could expand more. All right, we'll come to that. All right. Nisaba, any updates?
Yeah, the other time I read Prophet Owusu Bempa saying,
oh, gee,
he no longer prays for the president.
Nanado. Oh,
and then he used the story of Saul to justify that the president has strayed. And I was saying, who is he? I mean, is it a question of the president has moved away from you than the president has moved away from God? Because you gave this prophecy, Nanado won, and then you began to see yourself as somebody above the law. You understand? And you've been brought, you've been cut to size, and all of a sudden, the president is no longer your favorite. And it disturbed me in the sense that, not that the president has done anything good anyway, but the tendency for men of God in Ghana, precisely, and other parts of Africa, to insert themselves in politics, making declarations that are troublesome, to say the least, is what is really getting on my nerves.
Your last nerve, okay. I saw the video myself, and I was also disturbed because here comes a man who among prophets prophesied that I know that Ado was going to be the best president in Ghana. And now things are not going, they're going to IMF. So it felt like, okay, I was the one who prophesied. People might be thinking, okay, I brought this man and now things are not going well. So
He didn't bring him.
Well, according to him, he said he was the one
that didn't bring him.
He makes presence in Ghana. If I listen clearly to one of his videos, he said he's the one that president have to come through him before they become president. I know Uncle Max is eager to say something. Uncle Max, go ahead.
Yeah, it's very interesting this, because I was actually thinking of sharing something with you two guys on this very subject. Okay. The reason is, the day before, I was having a discussion with a business associate, and this thing came up, and I had to explain to him, because first of all, what the good Reverend said, Osubempa, I understand where he's coming from, because I made that same exact point the day before he came out with his point. But I was coming from a different vector, which is that, and Pastor Krong, I'm sure you're familiar with the idea of standing waves. Okay, for the less technical among us, it's a phenomenon where you get a resonant frequency, or a resonant wave in a cavity or a space or a particular dynamic, and this thing just stays and it replicates itself with very little energy. A great example is playing a flute. Okay, when you play a flute and you stop the various holes and so on, you are creating a resonant cavity. And the thing that produces the different frequencies of sound are the standing waves, which are created when you blow air into the flute. It goes down and then reflects back up. And the two waves moving forward and backward create the standing wave. Now, it's not just in acoustics that you get standing waves. Everybody's microwave, if you have a microwave at home, you have a device that creates these standing waves, which generate the microwaves. So you get it in electromagnetics, and you also get it in the realm of energy and spirit. And what a lot of people fail to realize is that certain offices, like the office of president, the office of prime minister, and so on, okay, they receive a lot of energy from various sources which are trying to, as it were, take some advantage from the connection to that office. And what happens over time is that a very strong spiritual standing wave gets created in that office. And for most of our political processes, which are already corrupt, what gets established in that office is a standing wave of corruption. And unless you are aware of this, the fact that you are in the office just of itself, and the fact that people are looking to you and so on, will bring corruption into you. And unless you are aware of it and you can fight it and stay true to your values, stay true to your vision and your mission and so on, before you know it, you will have changed. And this is what happens to many, many, many of our politicians. And, we see it. They get into office and then suddenly they have changed. They are no longer the person they used to be. And we think it's because they are busy, they are this, they are that. So no. It's the dynamics of the office that they occupy. It changes them. And it's a very rare individual who has the strength of character and the purity of character to withstand these kinds of forces. A good example is late President Magufuli, who stood his ground and stayed true to the principles on which he was elected. And unfortunately, when people like that come along, they get taken out.
Wow.
They get taken out because they have become, they become, to quote from The Godfather, a pebble in somebody's shoe.
Wow. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I think that was a strong warm-up. Yeah, we may have to take some of these topics and go into them. All right. Thanks. I think we're going to go into our study. And as I said, we are looking at, attitude that help us to go to a higher altitude. And I may want to quote a bit of John Maxwell tonight. And earlier when I mentioned, well, in our program on Tuesday, there was a lady that posed a question to us. And on commands, like I said, try to answer. That's on Leviticus 27, 30 to 33. If we have time later in the broadcast, we'll go into that. But tonight we are looking at our background story, the 12 spies. And as we recall, when Moses and Israel were approaching the Jordan River, the leader of the troop, Moses, despised 12 leaders to go and spy the land. In actual fact, the Bible uses spy or search. In other places, it's investigate, to go and investigate the land and, see how suitable it was before they went in. And these leaders were picked from each of the 12 tribes. They all had some similarities. All 12 were leaders in their tribes. They all received the same promise and they all received the same opportunities. But then the difference was that 10 said, no, we can't go, or we can't pick up the land or something like that. The same 10 misunderstood their mission, and 10 saw God in the light of their circumstances. Whereas the minority, the 2, said, guys, we can do it. Although the people are strong and tall and thick, we can do it. These 2 understood their mission, and the 2 saw circumstances in the light of their God. We'll come to the differences. Basically, it's about the difference hover around what they thought towards the land, the divine promises at stake, the people in Canaan, the land, and how the work was involved, and then how they saw the Lord and themselves. Those are the things that we're going to look at. But before I do, I think I've been talking for too much, so I'll let the experts come in. All right. Do you want me to read the verse 1 to 4 before we go in, or the story is already familiar?
I think it's familiar, so let's let my Uncle Mas break the ice.
Okay. All right, Uncle Max, you want to break the ice? I want us to look at issues like, all right, the differences, but then we'll take, would you say the 10 that gave the pessimistic reports, were they disobeying God? I mean, I don't think so, but I want to hear from you guys.
I wouldn't say they were disobeying God, but they were ignoring God and the implications of the instruction that had come from God. So essentially, they put their own of interests ahead of God's interests, and manufactured an opinion which wasn't warranted in the circumstances. So there was a case of overreach, beyond the task that they had been set, number one. And I suppose you could say that would be a disobedience to God. If God hasn't said do something and you do it, then who knows? You could say that that's going contrary to the will of God. So this is what I would say. I think there's also some parallel with this issue of Osu Bempa saying people change and so on. Because if the 10 had been living according to the precepts of God, the commandments of God, it's not likely that they would have interjected their own personal opinions into the task that they were given. And So in a sense, they had changed and they had moved away from the purity of the calling of leadership with which they had been endowed. And like in anything, there are always consequences. If you do good, there are good consequences. If you do bad, there are not so good consequences. And in the next chapter, we would read that all 10 of the pessimistic spies, they perished. Because God had to put the people of Israel through a purification cycle after that to get rid of these negative vibes, these negative standing waves that had crept into the congregation or the community of the children of Israel. And it took 40 years for that to happen.
Yeah, their reports ended up having a 40-year trip. All right. Thanks. Nisaba, let me ask you the same question. Because when the 10 came, the report that he gave, Bible says that their reports kind of spread like gangrene, like some disease or something that made the people sick. And if you were a journalist reporting exactly what you've seen, like Uncle Mark said, I wouldn't say they actually disobeyed God, but it's like they were being factual. They were reporting what they saw. But I think the only error they committed was that they didn't factor in the God factor, which should have made them, realize, look at the track record of God from Egypt all the way down, and rather brought a report that made the people sad or something. Do you agree to that?
Yes, mostly. But what I would prefer to do is actually try to pick the author's brains and find out what the purpose was. And as I said, I see something common with contemporary Christianity and Christians in this text. And as I alluded to the last time, my issue more had to do with the initial reaction of Caleb. And you see, when you read the text carefully, you realize that they were asked to go and bring back a factual report. And nowhere prior to Caleb's exuberance did they put in any interpretation. If you read Numbers 13, 28 down, in fact, from 20, he said, and they told him and said, we came into the land where thou sent us, and surely it flows with milk and honey, right? This was what God had already told them. So they got confirmation. And they showed evidence of that. They said, this is the fruit of it. So indeed, God didn't lie. When God said it's a land flowing with milk and honey, they brought confirmation.
But that was a metaphoric statement. That was a metaphoric statement.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay,
of
Right.
course. But you see, the next point, because Moses asked them to do certain things. I would prefer to read this, what Moses asked them, to be precise, in verse, from verse 18. He says, get you up this way, Sato, and go into it, and see the land, what it is, and the people that dwell in, whether they be strong or weak, few or many, right? So Moses asked for the size of the population, the strength of the people, and the nature of the land in terms of the city, the fortifications, and what have you. And then verse 19 says, what the land that they dwell in, whether it be good or bad, and what cities they be that dwell in, whether in tents or in strongholds. Tents means people who are constantly moving, right?
Okay.
And then strongholds, people who are settled. So they brought, and then verse 20, and the land, whether it be fat or lean, whether there be wood therein or not, and blah, 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 blah. You see, if they will settle in tents if the land was lean. They will settle I mean, they would dwell in tents if the land was lean. They would be settled if the land was fat. So these were things they were asked to do, and they brought the report. In verse 28, in verse 27, they talked about the land. Verse 28, they talked about the people. Said, nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. This is where the problem is. Because as I said, or we actually agreed last time, these people equated size to strength. You getting me? Because they said the people we saw were men of great stature.
So let me come in a little bit. So does it mean Caleb and Joshua underreported what they saw, and the 10 also overreported what they saw?
They didn't, and that's why I wanted us to stick to this text carefully. You realize that in Numbers 13, it was Caleb in verse 30 who only spoke. Joshua didn't speak. Joshua didn't speak. And so you read verse 30. Okay, I mean, let's get this in. Verse 20, that the Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites and the Jebusites dwell in the mountains, and that the Canaanites dwell by the sea, by the coast of Jordan. So they gave the geography. You getting me? The geography, the land had a coast, it had mountains. You getting me? These were factual. Factual. The point is, they were not asked to put any interpretation, any spin. And that's exactly what they were doing here.
Okay.
You get me? So I'm going strictly, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the narrator here. You get me? Then verse 30, Caleb says, and the Bible, and Caleb stood the people before Moses and said, let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able. Dr. Boison, this is another problem. This is what I found among Christians, that over exuberance almost always gets us in trouble.
That's true.
You getting me? And the point is, the author is making some interesting point. You realize that the people had presented an argument. And with an argument, you had your premises, your premise or premises, and then your conclusion. In the case of Caleb, he didn't present any reason for why they can overcome them. That's the first thing one has to recognize. You getting me? And so all of a sudden, these people were forced. The 10, in actual fact, Joshua will be part of this. So the 11, Acts at verse chapter 30, Joshua, either he will be quiet, right? And only the 10 will be speaking. But in Numbers 30, it was only Caleb who spoke, not Joshua, and then the others. And so Joshua only presented an opinion, didn't present any sort of reasoning. So I see this author trying to paint the model for Christians, that even if you have that excessive faith, that shouldn't be reason to let go of critical thinking. You get him? Because as I said, he didn't present any argument. And then all of a sudden, the 10, possibly the 11, had to take him on. From this point on, it went south. And Dr. Boison, this is what I see the author trying to put in our plate. We have to be critical thinkers. But in being critical thinkers, we must also factor in the thing that is almost imperceptible, but it is vital. In the case of Israel, they are God. Which is to say, even if you have to interpret, right, the first order of business is to look at the facts as they are.
That's true.
And then reason from the facts. And that's what I see the author here has done. Now, Dr. Boison, if you go to chapter 14, you will realize from verse 7, 8, and 9, the argument changes there. Joshua comes in with Caleb this time, and they say that if God delights in us, he will bring us into the land and he will give it to us. 2, he said the people's defense has departed away from them. So that's premise number 1. They are bread for us. Premise number 2. God on our side. Premise number 3. What is the conclusion? We can win.
Okay.
But because the people's minds had already been poisoned by what had happened, it's like they were not ready to listen to anything. And that is the danger for us, that we shouldn't jump ahead of interjecting faith when we haven't seriously looked at the facts carefully. Let me stop here, and then we can take it from there.
That is a mouthful. I was going to, Uncle Max, I'm going to come to you. So from the story, are we saying that, okay, Caleb and Joshua were the modern day audacious Christians who maybe were going strictly by track record of God? But in our contemporary times, Uncle Max, how can we relate this to what is happening in our system? I mean, can we be able to stand on this premise and declare, what is going on even in America, Ghana, the IMF syndrome? Can we just say, okay, why are we going to IMF? What can we do? Can we just stand on the faith aspect and declare, okay, now we are not going to IMF? What can we do if we...
Well, I agree with Pastor Krong that, we are blessed with a brain and we are required to make use of the brain. It is one of the talents with which we have been endowed. And we need to develop that talent. The point has been made, okay, Ghana is going to the IMF, but Togo isn't going, Cote d'Ivoire isn't going, Burkina Faso isn't going. Weren't they also subject to the same
economic
coronavirus epidemics and so on and so forth that the whole world was subject to? So we can't make excuses that it was because of externalities, because everybody experienced those externalities. And the challenge we have in Ghana and I guess other parts in Africa is this factor that we don't use critical thinking to assess our situation and do what we can. Faith has its place, and faith is something that should come in after you have taken your logical analysis and synthesis as far as it can go. And if there is still a gap between where you
want to go,
logically think you can go, and where you want to go, then you bring in the aspect of faith. You understand? But even if you were to bring in the aspect of faith in the first instance, you will still need to do some critical analysis, because faith will not tell you what to do. It will simply give you the confidence to go ahead. But what to do requires rationality. It requires comprehensive analysis. It requires taking into account all the factors that are available in order to come up with a strategy to get to where you want to go. And this is where we fail. because we think that so long as we have invoked our faith and we have expressed confidence in God, then we don't have to do anything. And miracles will happen. But even Jesus said, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and unto God that which is God's. And God didn't place us here so that, we can go on holiday and he does all the work. If so, then why are we here?
I'll pick it. Uncle Max, I'll pick it up from where you ended, and both of you can, remark on that. I don't know whether the Israelites in those days were more favored than we are. Of course, we are under different dispensations, and in those days, they could literally, I'll use the word here, literally, Moses was the savior at that time, the mediator between God and them. So this man will hear from God and relate to the people. I don't want to even use the word that they were more favored than we are, because from what we have been exposed to as believers and Christians, the death and resurrection of Jesus placed us in a better position with the Holy Ghost indwelling us, that we should be better positioned. But then, despite our prayers and all that, one begs this question that why are things not really, I don't want to use that phrase to the devil's advocate, but I think there's a missing link that I cannot put my finger on. You guys need to help me or help our listeners tonight, because if you look at this, Caleb and Joshua stood on the track record of God, what he had done for them from Israel when they were in Egypt, Goshen, all through the Red Sea. And so these guys were daily being exposed to the handiworks of God every day. I'm not saying miracles don't happen nowadays every day, but these guys were daily bombarded with the miracles of God, the 10 plagues. They wanted it came, and I think we did mention that last week. But it looks as if there's something missing that I haven't been able to. I'm still grappling with it. Uncle Max and Nisaba, help me with that. What is the missing link? Because these two...
The missing link is our tendency to take away our humanity and insert divinity there.
Okay.
At the end of the day, we are still human, and we function in specific ways. You getting me? And God is wise enough to give us what makes us human, and also make available what connects us to the divine.
Okay.
You getting me? The tendency to overemphasize the divine is where the problem is. Because Dr. Boison, the point is, as far as this planet Earth is concerned, it is the human mind that God created, designed, and fashioned to understand the processes of the processes and the laws that this planet obeys or runs on. It is not the spirit. The spirit connects us, the divine aspect connects us to God to get ideas and to know what he wants done on this planet Earth. And then once we get it from him, what his purpose is, his plans, and what our view are, he expects us to use the very instrument he has created and given to us free to understand the processes of the very planet he created. And it's like we are not doing that. And Dr. Boison, that becomes the issue, because 2 years ago, right, a report came out and they said the report's finding was that most poor nations in the world are also very spiritual.
Religious.
Yeah.
Oh, is it religious? Right.
They're very religious. No,
very religious.
Spirituality is something else.
Okay.
You get to me. And then what is really happening then? And you see nations that hardly even mention the name of God prospering. And you ask, did God lie? Is the Bible not trying to, not telling us the truth? No. It is our misreading and therefore the misapplication of the principles of God enshrined in his own word. We don't read, and if we read, we don't understand. And if we don't understand, we don't apply. That's our problem.
Because I find it very difficult to understand that we have.
You see, I won't deviate, but I'll tell you something. In I think Matthew chapter 11, Jesus cursed,
The fig tree.
Condemned Bethsaida. He condemned Capernaum, and he made a statement that, listen, if the mighty works, the miracles Jesus had performed in those cities, if those miracles had been performed in Sodom and Gomorrah would have been alive. The inhabitants would have been alive. Those cities would be in existence. And why were these two cities, who were even worse off, spared? The grace of God, right? But this where Jesus, I see him, he ended by saying that, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and humble. I am meek and lowly in heart, and you shall find rest for your souls. Look at it. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Then the same person says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, and you shall find rest for your soul. So at the end of the day, rest is the goal. But Jesus shows that there are two ways to get it. One, he gives, the other you find. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. And you can only find when you take Jesus' yoke upon you and learn. That's the key word, learn. It's not enough to take the yoke, but it is to taking the yoke and learning, something we don't do. We only want him to give us the rest. When he doesn't give us, then we don't get it because we don't take the yoke and learn. We've taken the yoke, we are not doing the learning. Therefore, we are not finding the rest. It's as simple as that. So here are we as Christians, ancient Israel in modern life. That's what we are. That was the ancient church. The church in the wilderness. We are the church in the city. And we are doing exactly like them. Why? Because at the end of the day, humans are human. We are not gods. And humans behave in specific ways. You understand? Though we have the divine aspect of us, we live in an environment that is not divine in any way. And God has made provision for how to tease out the goodies out of that space, and we are not doing it.
All right, let let Uncle Max give us some comment. Thank you very much, Nisaba. We're talking about, in case you join us, you're on Era One Radio. We are broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube, and also Modern Ghana Radio. If you want to call in, 240-280-2633 or 510-931-0946 in case you want to text. We're talking about how your attitude can help you to go far, or how attitude makes you get to your altitude. Uncle Mas, we used to believe when we were growing up that, I don't want to use spirituality, otherwise you're going to correct me and tell me religiosity. We say religiosity was going to get us into heaven, so we should get all our treasure in heaven. Jesus said it metaphorically, and we took it that, if you become wealthy in life, it's like you are not being spiritual enough. So poverty was equal to, heavenly mindedness. But you realize that if you have a good home to live, you have good amenities, and you remember that there is a God who created you, and so you give unto God what is for God and Caesar what is for Caesar. I don't think me becoming a very rich person, millionaire, will take me away from God, because I know where I've come from. And so that will rather draw me closer to God, because I would want to be doing more for people. I can't stand people going in need or something. I'd rather help. So that notion of religiosity or spirituality will get us to, heaven. I don't think we are applying our attitude very well, because you are a traveler, you've gone to several countries. from Ghana, you've gone to UK, US, so you know the attitude and mentality of people. Is there anywhere we are missing in the way our attitudes are being applied to the things that we see or observe, or in relation to this scripture?
Yeah, I think there are a number of things that can be said. First of all, the religion of poverty, in which poverty is equated to
virtue,
not a chance to get to heaven. It's just a scam. It was a scam that was put out by early Christian missionaries, so that we in Africa and slaves wouldn't complain too much about our poverty. So let us move away from that, because God is a God of abundance. And if we lived our lives according to his precepts, we would have lives of abundance. Now, I remember I lived in Ireland for some time. I used to listen to radio quite a lot in order to get to understand the nature of the country and the people who inhabited it and so on. And one of the things that sticks in very strongly in my memory is the plea from a Catholic priest saying that it was long past time that humanity started understanding nature as the first face of God. Yeah, God created nature and then created mankind and said, have dominion over my creation, at least on this planet. Okay. What that says is that we should have some reverence for nature. When we talk about love thy God and love thy neighbor, what the hell are we talking about when we say God? That's what I'm saying. God is manifest around us. He is omnipresent. We say these things without understanding that the consciousness of God is in the grass that we trample upon. It is in the trees that give us shade. It is in the corn that gives us victuals and food to sustain us. It is everywhere. But I have to ask the question, how much reverence and respect do we have for our environment in this country? The number of trees that have been cut down in my neighborhood is sad. It makes me sad. We have no respect for the first face of God. How then will we respect God? You understand? Now, if you look at the technologically advanced countries, the rich countries, who we dismiss as non-spiritual and they're not even Christians and so on and so forth, and yet they are living comfortable, wealthy lives. What have they done? They have studied nature. They have studied the principles of creation, and transformed that understanding into technology that solves problems for them and for us. And so we give them money for the solutions that they have created for our problems, and they get rich and we stay poor. And that is because we are woefully failing to understand that we are blessed with abundance, but we are not using this brain that we have been given to understand the principles that govern our situation so that we can apply those principles and create products and services that are of benefit to mankind. We are here to help and to heal others. Yeah, I think it was Muhammad Ali who said, service to others is the rent you pay for your space on earth. How many of us get up in the morning thinking, how can I be of service to my fellow man? We don't. We go around thinking, how can I rob somebody or how can I rip somebody in order to make money? That is not a godly attitude. And this is what keeps us in poverty and in shackles of mental, slavery.
We are familiar, Uncle Max, let me just continue, you can pick it up from there again. We are familiar with this phrase, Nyamebeye. We all know that God will do it. And of course, God is the ultimate, so we have to look unto him. Has that phrase been overused?
It has been misunderstood.
It has been abused, not misunderstood. It has been abused.
Okay. I think it amounts to the same thing. God has done his bit. We should do our bit. It's like this guy who prayed that he should win the lottery, and every time, you go to you look at the lottery results, and he hadn't won. And he said, God, why am I not winning the lottery? And God said, my friend, meet me halfway. Buy a ticket. Buy a lottery ticket. Like your number comes up. You haven't bought the lottery ticket. You haven't done anything. You still want to win the lottery.
I think my niece is not on today. Otherwise, she will go to the store.
Dr. Boison, I quoted Matthew 11. I mean, Jesus himself, as I said, if Jesus learned anything at all in that, Jesus learned that miracles are not the way to go with humans. Just think about that. You get it. Miracles come to take us out of a jam. Yeah, miracles are not supposed to be a 24/7 affair. But listen to the preachings we get from our pastors from the pulpit. And then you go to the pastor's house and the wealth, the opulence. And then you go to the congregation and the filth. And you are asking what is happening.
It's all about mentality.
Yeah. These are the issues. And we are looking at that thing. You see, again, if we come back to the test we are dealing with, you realize that the trick, as in chapter 14, as articulated by predominantly Joshua, and then
Caleb.
by Caleb, is that they presented an argument. And that's what I see the author trying to do with this text, the way he's rendered it. You get me? You have over exuberance, you have one group, the people who only dwelt on the facts and put a spin that was not helpful. And then you stack it against somebody who just displayed over exuberance, and all hell broke loose. You get me? Because Moses asked for specific things. As far as I'm concerned, Moses asked for factual, for a factual report. Out of the factual report, we can devise a strategy and tactics and what have you to go and possess the land. And
so in actual fact, Caleb and Joshua built on the factual report that the 10 gave. Just that they put a twist by just saying, okay, you guys have given us the facts. The only thing is that we have the track record of God, and so that should enable us to overcome the report you gave.
That's why if you go to verse 14, chapter 14, let's go there if you have it. And then let's look at what exactly they put on in the plate. Verse 7.
Verse 7 says,
from verse 7, and they say, the land which we pass through to set it is exceeding good land.
Okay.
Factual. If the Lord, now that's the condition. If the Lord delights in us, he will bring us into this. This is what we call hypothetical syllogism. You understand, or hypothetical propositions or conditional proposition. If the Lord delights in us, that means we have a secret source. We have secret help. The only way we bring the secret help into the equation is if we delight in him. So you see some amount of reciprocity. God coming in as a result of our delighting in him.
So it's a conditional clause.
Okay, so yes. Now, then they come and verse 9, right? They make one of the most important claims. What in philosophy we will call a claim of policy, right?
Only rebel not. Only rebel not.
Neither fear ye the people of the land, right? For they are bread for us. Now look at it. They are bread for us. Now they are saying we have a certain ability that can overcome them. But first, they also acknowledge the presence of a secret source of help. And then
Joshua also knew that this group of people were a rebellious group anyway. So he made emphasis that rebel not.
I am submitting that he was part of the 10 in chapter, because in chapter 13 it was only Caleb who spoke. It was only Caleb. Don't think the author made a mistake. The author wrote carefully. You get me? And I would say that's why Joshua became the leader and not Caleb. You get me? Okay. And then he said, he said, for they are bread for us, their defense is departed from them. So look at what has happened there. They looked at themselves, and we have ability to overcome. We have God, and the people, the adversary lacks something that is vital, their defense. So they looked at all aspects. They looked at themselves and their ability. They looked at the weakness of weaknesses of the adversary, right? And then they added in the dimension of God.
That's true.
They had a winning argument.
Yeah, that was the solution. Yeah, it looks as if God doesn't like pessimism. If you go to be negative, God will just blow you away.
Bread for us is metaphor, right? You can look at it different. They are bread for us. Bread, what does bread do?
Nourishes, feeds you.
Nourishes. So bread is an answer. They are the answer for us. Their defense is their weakness. You getting me? So we've identified the weakness that will enable us to overcome them. So we have a certain ability, and they have a certain weakness. And then we have God on our side. Very, very potent argument. And that's what the author, as far as I'm concerned, that's the reason he's taking the trouble to present this text in this way. Right? So you compare Christian exuberance, Christian pessimism, and then Christian realism. You get me? Christian realism, Joshua and Caleb in chapter 14. Christian exuberance in chapter 13 in Caleb. And then pessimism in chapter 13, the rest. Because Dr. Boison, where I find a bit unsettling is, again, the other time we made mention of it, is verse 32 and verse 33. And you read it carefully and you realize that something happened with the text there. And that's the critical, when we do critical reading, these are the things we must account for. Because you see, the author went about in the previous verses, he handed over the mic to the people to give the account. It wasn't the author putting words in their mouth or quoting them. You getting me? So that became popular word dialogue, but because the actors themselves spoke, right, we are able to get into their minds based on the words. You getting me? The author, we are able to get into their minds to understand where they were coming from. But in verse 32, this is what we call exposition, right? You remember we did the 5 narratives, 5 narrative modes. In verse 32 and 33, that's exposition. Exposition in a narrative is where the author, in this case, the narrator, is telling you something that you would not have had any opportunity to know. So he gives you this where the principle of showing and not telling is discarded, right? So in 32 and 33, the author is telling us rather than showing us. The previous verses, the author is showing us rather than telling us.
Wow, awesome, awesome. I know Uncle Mark has something to say, but before he does, tonight we're speaking about, or we're discussing attitude that will take us to a higher altitude. And thinking about such a positive attitude, I have a sister who is into farming, Martha's farm, you know, and this farm is located in New Legon, Adenta, Accra. If you want to contact her, her number is 0249 416460. 0249 416460. Those of you who like eating what is it, chofi and all this kind of imported, it's about time you eat made in Ghana products. They are also fresh. This lady rears her own poultry, and get in touch. And it's not only Christmas that you have to eat chicken. Back home, that's what happened to us. You won't get it, so you only eat chicken during Christmas, and even that you have to be lucky to get a leg or an arm or something. And so this is common thing that is being done in Ghana. Please don't wait till it's your birthday or Christmas before you get chicken. Call Martha, and she will hook you up with some point, especially at the restaurants and the chop bars. Get in touch. We are talking about positive attitude, and she has taken a step. All right, Uncle Max, I know you have something a lot on your chest that you're going to unload before our 3 minutes catches up with that. What do you have to tell us?
Well, I think really Pastor Akrong has said much of what needs to be said regarding this particular passage.
Okay.
But since we're talking about attitude and so on, I'd like to just bring in something that it's a question that many face or have been asked before. And that is to do with when you have a glass of water, is it half full, like or is it half empty? The pessimist might say it is half empty. The optimist might say it is half full. And you can get different answers to this question. Somebody might say it depends whether you're pouring or you're drinking. Yeah, because that gives some direction to where the water level is going. Some might say that it is enough that you have a glass with water in it, because you can always refill it. It's a useful thing, and you can build on what you have. The physicist or the spiritualist will say it is always full. It's not just water that is in here. There is also air. There is space.
Matter.
So it is always full. And I think this is what we need to understand in our walk with God, that our cup is always full, but we don't always see what is filling our cup because we are too busy focusing on one aspect of our lives, the water bit. We don't see the space above, which is there for us to be creative and to fill it with the abundance of our talent. So I think that's how I'd like to wrap up.
All right. Thank you very much. Nisaba, do you have a closing remark?
I think we would have to exhaust this test again next week. There is much in it. I mean, there is much that speaks to our contemporary Ghanaian times. And so,
indeed.
Uncle Mars, what do you say?
Well, I've been inclined to agree with you. Yes. we have a nation where we have been, as a former president used to say, we are sitting on the runway, we are ready to take off. But for some reason, that takeoff never comes so that we can enter the promised land. Because
the Chima will see it is Caso Secomdiana. How that is different.
Exactly. So it is very opposite to our situation.
All right. Tonight we've been discussing how your attitude will take you far. Sometimes the way we think, the way we do things are what will take us distantly. These 12 spies were all sent to go to the new land, the green pasture land, to go and size up, investigate, and see whether it was worth taking over. They had the same information, the same external information was subjected to them. But then what was internal was what made a difference. 10 said, you know what? It's a good land. There are grapes, there are, cucumbers, everything. But the people there are bigger than us. Intimidation setting, the people are stronger, we are not well able. And the minority, like what we keep saying, that it's not always majority that carries the vote. Sometimes the few people that have the good report or are being optimistic. In this case, realize that the 10 that gave the report wouldn't say they were wrong. They were giving their factual report. They said this is what we saw, but they also put their spin that discouraged the people. And God said, you cannot discourage my people. You always have to be optimistic. That's why when you see people and they are sick, you ask them, buddy, how are you doing? They know they are very sick. They are dying. They tell, hey, I am strong. Let the one who say I'm weak and be strong. So we just use that phrase. But then these guys gave their also report. The two gave their reports. What you are saying is true, but then because of the track record of God, because of whom we have believed, the one who has support, because of what he can do, we are well able. And the two gentlemen have always cited Muhammad Ali, that, when he stands in the boxing ring with somebody who is bigger and taller, he say, I'm not going to be intimidated. I have so much space. The guy is so big, I cannot miss. I will have somewhere to hit. And this is what optimism. So always be optimistic. Of course, be factual. If the thing is red, say it is red. It is red, but maybe I can pray and turn it around by adding some chemicals, because when you realize the white light that we see is made up of mixtures of colors that makes it white. But then when you break the whole, cytochrome or photochrome or whatever apart, you realize it's a whole different kinds of colors. So be realistic as a believer. Believe in what you see, in what you pray, but at the same time use wisdom and good attitude. If you are walking in town and you drink this breasted water, I mean, when I was in Ghana, I loved it. The water that's shaped like water, you just cut it and you suck it. People do that and you just throw it. Look for a dustbin. Let the city look clean. I saw a video about Wadimaya. He went to Rwanda and he saw somebody clean the gutter, and he said this guy cleans the gutter 5 times a day. So Wadimaya went to buy some food and he sat in the gutter and ate, to let people know that in Rwanda, you can eat in the gutter, meaning it is so clean. They clean it. I mean, you can't mess it up. I once passed by Medina when I was in Ghana, and I was so sorry. I don't want to mention it, but my wife and I watched it. Said people were selling their stuff behind the gutter, and this gutter was choked. So I told my wife, how about one Saturday we pass by, get some, equipments and start digging and let people see we are cleaning. They won't do it. It was so stengy, so smelly, and people were sitting just behind it, selling their stuff and making money. That is bad. That's what we talk about attitude. I'm not trying to put anybody on board, but then our attitude will take us a long way. Tonight with me to do the discussion was our Honorable Nisaba, also Robert Akron, and Uncle Max. It's 11:04, Uncle Max. I'm sorry, I'm keeping you from going to sleep, but we really happy. I mean, I cannot overemphasize or underemphasize. We are so grateful that you joined the team. Despite your bedtime being over, you're still always with us and you make this team strong. Thank you very much. For those of you who are listening to us, go to Facebook, YouTube, and go and pick up this clip and listen again. We are educating ourselves. This is the program where we make you think, because some of these scriptures that these guys are sharing with me, I read and I don't even look at it the way they teach us here. And we are learning. And the good thing is that they are doing this all for free. Don't tell me anything that is free is not good. This knowledge they are spewing, if they were consultant giving this lecture somewhere, trust me, I can tell you Pastor Kron goes to Ghana to give lectures, and I can't tell you how much they pay him, a lot of money. But he comes on this program and does it from the willingness of his heart. Thank you, Pastor Kron. We appreciate it. Uncle Max, thank you very much. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend and enjoy. Keep having a positive attitude. And sooner or later, maybe we'll stop going to IMF. Something will come up. We'll go back to our gold and oil and start doing something fresh. Thank you. Have a good one.
A troop cometh. That's what the Bible said. A troop is on the way.
Okay, we are waiting.
Is on the way. Ghana and Africa will change. We will never remain like this.
And it begins with a positive attitude.
Yes, sir. We are
all right.
We are all right.
I can't wait to see you come. All right. Have a good one, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Bye-bye.
Hello, beautiful people of Ghana. This is Vanahine Specialist Hospital. We are so excited to announce to our people Ghana that we are finally opened and we are accepting patients. At Bonahine Specialist Hospital, our extraordinary physicians and nurses are here to provide a high-quality medical service to our extraordinary patients. Our services include primary care services, maternal, neonatal, and pediatric services. We also have an in-house pharmacy. We have X-ray and laboratory services available to you. Come to us for all your healthcare needs, and you will be happy you did, because we believe that health is wealth. Thank you, and stay blessed.